back-to-back be on their list of targets? Welcome to Michael Bridge, Kyle Walker and Nabeed Haroun. We're going to get straight to Watford's training ground, though, to join our reporter Gary Cottrell, who has the latest on Roy Hodgson's imminent appointment as the club's new manager. Gary, do we have any details of the terms of this deal?
Yes, well, my understanding of the deal, which is very, very close now to being signed by Roy Hodgson, is that it will be a short-term deal. Roy Hodgson will be 75 in the summer, so it'll be a 6-month deal, including him and his assistant Ray Lewington, but with an easy option to extend. So what will happen is that 6-month deal will be signed and agreed. Then both parties, the club and Roy Hodgson, will see where they are in the summer. Has he managed to keep Watford up? How are they playing? How have the results been? And then easily extendable terms will be a part of that contract if Roy decides he wants to stay, if the club decide they want Roy to stay. But to start off with, a 6-month deal for Roy Hodgson here at Watford.
So Watford have acted quickly. They always do, actually, but why Roy Hodgson?
Well, of course, a safe pair of hands, all the experience in the world. This will be his 22nd job in a 45-year career. Of course, he worked a miracle at Crystal Palace, didn't he, back in 2017 when he arrived. They were 007. They'd lost their licence to thrill. Won none, drawn none, lost 7. I don't think they'd even scored a goal at that point. He came in, and in the end of that season, they managed to finish 11th in the Premier League. Did a similar job, of course, at Fulham. A very experienced manager, some top jobs, Inter, Liverpool, England. So, of course, he's still got a hunger, it seems, to come and prove that he still can operate at the top level, even at his age. He left Crystal Palace through his own decision. Of course, the club agreed they wanted to go in a different direction. But as he said on Sky Sports News last week, he's still got a hunger and he still believes that he can turn things around here at Watford. Perhaps the way he was talking about the way you get a club to perform on the pitch that isn't performing on Sky Sports News last week, maybe that caught the ear of the Watford owner and they liked what they heard. We know that Roy Hodgson has already been down to this training ground. We hear he was here yesterday briefly just to sign some paperwork, and we expect him to be back again later on today. The players are coming to the end of 3.5 days off. They've been off since that defeat by Norwich, which did for Claudio Ranieri. They'll be reporting for training here at midday, and we expect Roy Hodgson to be here as well, the new Watford manager, just to start off with for 6 months.
Gary, thank you. We're going to talk about this now, but Watford fans, we want to hear from you. Hashtag transfer talk on this imminent appointment of Roy Hodgson. Michael, why have Watford gone for Hodgson? I asked it to Gary there. What do you think?
Well, it was a terrible result against Norwich, as great as Norwich were on Friday. But you know, Watford would have wanted to have won that game, of course. They've made the change. We're in a bit of a winter break now, although Watford do have a game coming up. But look what Roy Hodgson's done. He did a phenomenal job at Fulham. Didn't just keep them up, got them to the Europa League final. Did a really good job at West Brom. And he did really well at Crystal Palace. You know, there was never really any danger when he was firmly in there of any relegation. They were around 12th, 13th, 14th all the time. I've dealt a lot with Crystal Palace and I've spoken to Roy a lot. And it was always, don't mention retirement. Don't mention retirement. Always was that warning before speaking to him. He's still got the hunger, you know, and it's great to see him back. I've sent him a text wishing him the best, and he said he's looking forward to catching up over the next few hectic weeks. He knows he's got a big job on his hands, but he'll relish it. He'll absolutely relish it. And talking about signings, it could be Watford's best signing they make this January.
Well, talking of signings, Kyle, will he get a chance to do anything in this window? Because let's say he is appointed today, and it looks like he will be. Next Monday's deadline day.
It is, so he's got a finite amount of time, but if there's one manager that I'd say that could actually work with what he's got, it's Roy Hodgson, and actually going towards the end of the season, if it is that short-term deal to bring him in, 6 months, he's got a squad there. If there's one manager, like I said, that can work with what they got, it is Roy, and it's a wealth of experience that he's bringing to that role. We know that Watford over the years have had so many managers. It feels like we're always talking about who's the next manager, will they be the right fit for them? Feel like with Roy, I think I like what Bridgie said just there. Michael said, actually, it's all about not being dangerous. this is a manager that will come in and hopefully can keep them up, hopefully can keep them going, and then hopefully keep them in the Premier League, and then they can look at a strategy for the future. But with 6 days to go, I'd be very surprised if there's any big incomings at Watford. Yeah.
They have been active this month, though, haven't they?
Well, they've brought in 3 players, Kembe, Camara and Samir, all started against Norwich. Samir actually played, I think, relatively well. They've been linked to Samuel Kalou. We've been told that's almost pretty much done. And then they've also been linked to Nat Phillips as well. My only concern is with Roy Hodgson, he tends to go for players that have lots of experience, and this team has a lot of players who are fresh to the Premier League or sort of relatively new to playing for a club that are really down there, and even the players they're linked to as well. I just fear that he comes in and has this problem where he's got a new cycle of players, which is why I was scratching my head when Claudio Ranieri got the sack, because I was thinking, surely bring in Roy Hodgson at the start of the window, give him the full length to go and get the players that he wants.
OK, well, so he has gone and Roy Hodgson is on his way. Much more on this throughout the day about Roy Hodgson's imminent appointment at Watford. All right, but this is Good Morning Transfers, and that moves us on to Manchester United. Get in touch, Manchester United fans, #transfer talk, because there were developments overnight about Anthony Martial. Michael, what's the latest?
Yeah, it looks like he's on his way out and heading to Spain. Seville and Manchester United have reached an agreement for the loan of Anthony Martial. He'll join them until the end of the season, with Seville paying his wages in full. Now, he's currently in Paris, so he's going to fly over to Seville to undergo a medical. Now, what's interesting here is that he did have interest all across Europe. There's no real surprise there, but Juventus and Barcelona, we're told. But Seville is the club he wants to join. He feels he's going to get more first-team football there. And it's a good move for him. The question for me is, for Manchester United, does that leave them a little bit short as the season goes on with cup games and Europe coming back? But, of course, he's had that sort of iffy relationship with Ralph Rangnick with the social media posts as well. So it's an interesting moment with Anthony Martial. Sometimes he's brilliant and sometimes he flatters the sleeve. It's a difficult one.
And with all of that in mind, Kyle, why are Manchester United willing to let him go? Michael's done a few reasons there, but he is still a quality player.
He is indeed, and we've seen that in flashes with Anthony Martial over the years. And I think Manchester United fans were very, very excited when he did arrive at Old Trafford. And in that first season, I was looking at some of the stats, and he manages to get 17 goals in 61 appearances, 2015-16. And then Manchester United fans get even more excited. And the next season, he didn't quite hit those heights, only getting 9 goals. But then again, you see the hard work that he does put in, and we can see here 175 games, 56 goals in total, 26 assists, and majority of those, well, they actually came 2019-20 when he managed to beat that previous target that he'd set himself in 17. He got 23 goals. So he is a goal scorer in all competitions. We've seen him do it in the Champions League. We've seen him do it in the Premier League as well, against the best teams in the league. So you think that there's no question about him as a player. He's obviously had these goings on with the manager, but Manchester United fans, they've always questioned his attitude, the way he looks on the pitch, and that might be because of the constant shifts in where he's actually playing. Is he a centre forward? Is he a number 10 that he's played before? Left wing, right wing? He's never really solidified himself in one position and managed to keep that consistently in the team.
Yeah, that's something that stands out to me, actually. You never know. I mean, Sevilla trying to sign him as a striker, they're trying to sign him as a winger. You just don't know with Anthony Martial. Are you surprised that it hasn't worked out? I mean, there is still time because it's only going to be a loan, but so far it hasn't, as well as they would have liked to anyway.
Well, it's, as Kyle said there, when you look at Martial, I felt United had signed a number 9. And then he's played off the left far too many times for my personal liking. I've always felt he was a 9. When he had that season in 19-20, he did play as a 9 for the majority of the season. But I think United have had a few of these players now, and they still have them now. Rashford, Greenwood, we keep saying, who's playing in the middle? Then they've gone and got Ronaldo and Cavani. And I just felt like it got to a point where it was just, for me, it just didn't feel like it was going to work out. I just fear with United letting go of Martial, they're relying on Ronaldo. He will stay fit, but Cavani's had injury issues. If Cavani picks up another injury, Ronaldo, as we've seen with Ralph Rangnick, is sort of in and out, like, dare I say. It leaves you sort of thinking, well, who's going to take up that number 9 slot? For Sevilla, I think it's a really interesting signing. They're chasing down the title, and I think it's a good, ambitious move from them. I don't really see how he comes back to United under Ralph Rangnick once Ralph Rangnick said after that, I think it was a game or a press conference where he practically said he's not in my plans, he's not been on the bench. And then he brings him on and he actually impacts the game. And I thought this might be the turning point, but obviously not.
And that you can back that up with looking at the games that he's played. I mean, he hadn't featured before Saturday since December the 2nd in that 3-2 win against Arsenal. So he's not in Ralph Rangnick's plans, you would say. So the future for him, if he's not here for the next 6 months, if he does go on loan, and then a new manager possibly comes in, he's not had time at Manchester United as well. Where does that leave Anthony Martial and Manchester United?
There's no obligation to buy, as you point out. If it's a successful loan and he's in a very good team with a very good manager, this could be great news for Manchester United. They can see him from afar. And also, he's not going to an Arsenal or a Tottenham. You're not strengthening a top 4 rival. United fans just can sit back and see how he's getting on in another league.
Do you think that's the reason that he's not going to another Premier League club? Because Manchester United wouldn't allow it, because there definitely would have been Premier League interest.
Oh, absolutely.
There was.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about Donny van der Beek on here. We talk about Jesse Lingard on here. You know, imagine them on loan to certain Premier League clubs and the potential impact they make. As I say, for Ralph Rangnick and Manchester United, they can look at how he's getting on in Seville. So I can see why. So does it potentially leave United a little bit short there?
I think he's actually been quite unlucky. He's had a lot of different managers and there's constant transitions at United. He's now become a part of that transition. I think, as you just said there, Ralph Rangnick comes in and decides he's basically not in the plans and therefore feels we've got enough strength going forward, we've got enough forwards, and Martial doesn't fit the bill. I think one area where United have a lot of strength and depth is out wide and then in the central area. Unless there's a few injuries, Sancho, big some injury, Cavani, then maybe they might think we probably should have kept Martial, but clearly he's not in the plans. So even if he was fit, I'd imagine Elanga might even get more of a run than Martial.
Now we have some sad news to bring you this morning. 7-year-old West Ham supporter Isla Caton has sadly passed away. Isla has been bravely fighting stage 4 neuroblastoma cancer for almost 5 years of her short life. Isla's family released a short message on Twitter saying, "It is with the heaviest of broken hearts that we must announce Isla gained her angel wings early hours of this morning. It was very peaceful and surrounded by the continued love of Nicola, Michael and Millie. God bless our brave Isla." Now, West Ham fans and viewers of this show will be familiar with Isla's story after musician Governor B released a song about her football club West Ham on this show a few weeks ago. The song went viral and ended up as #1 on the iTunes chart, with all the money raised from sales donated to Isla's fight. Governor B said, "Rest in peace, special girl. Rest in perfect peace, special girl. Such a legacy, sending love, prayers and strength." West Ham tweeted earlier, "The hearts of everyone in the West Ham United family are broken this morning. Rest in peace, brave, beautiful Isla. You were an inspiration to us all." And everybody here on Good Morning Transfers and at Sky Sports News sends their condolences to the family and friends of Isla. This is Good Morning Transfers. We talked about Anthony Martial before the break and his loan move to Sevilla. A little bit more on that. We understand there is no loan fee, but his wages will be paid in full by Sevilla. We got a couple of tweets in before the break as well. Danny says, not sure if we're going to miss Martial, Ronaldo, Cavani, Rashford, Greenwood, Elanga, Sancho. That's enough attackers. And Jamie's been in touch to say Manchester United really need defensive midfielders, which Manchester United fans have been saying to us for the last 3 transfer windows. But now to Arsenal, they suffered a blow in their pursuit of Dusan Vlahovic last night. It appears that he is more likely to move to Juventus rather than coming to the Premier League. Right, Kyle, how disappointing is that for Arsenal and also for the Premier League?
I think it's very disappointing for Arsenal because they were the front runners in this signing. We've always been talking about them. They've been linked with him, and ultimately it would have been a signing for them that I think they do need. If you look at the players that they've currently got, Eddie Nketiah, this youngster that everyone's talking about, everyone's excited about, well, his contract's coming to an end. Alexandre Lacazette, contract's coming to an end. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang lost his captaincy, and we don't know where his future lies if it is at Arsenal. This could have been a signing that could have helped them not just recoup, to actually get back together, but also to bridge that gap maybe between Chelsea, Liverpool, Manchester City and the rest of that chasing pack. So I think they'll be very disappointed if they don't get him.
Yeah, well, we are joined now by Arsenal fan Joel Bayer. And Joel, good morning to you. Throughout this window, you've been heavily linked with Dusan Vlahovic. That deal, like, as we've just been saying, is unlikely. Looks like he's on his way to Juventus. For you, an Arsenal fan, how much of a blow is that? Did you get your hopes up?
Definitely did. You know, I was one of those on my Twitter and Instagram saying, you watch when we get Vlahovic, you know, I'm going to be making loads of noise. And it has been halted by Juve. I mean, I'm not really surprised at the end of the day. We're not in any cup competitions. I'm sure Rambo and Kyle Walker will be there smiling as they usually do. 17 goals this season, 2 assists from the Serie A top striker. And unfortunately, he's not coming to Arsenal.
Joel, I can almost hear the pain in your voice right there. Do Arsenal need to look elsewhere now than at some other striker options? If so, who do you think they should be trying to sign?
Carl, I think the question is, would you be looking elsewhere? And of course you would. I know your team has plenty of resources. You don't even need a number 9. But for us, Arsenal, I think Jonathan David is actually is an option from Lille. A 22-year-old Canadian striker, strong, pacey. You know, he did well last year when Lille won the league. And, of course, he's still performing well so far in the Champions League as well. I mean, he's got 12 goals in the league, 3 in the Champions League, 13 goals last season when they won. So, for me, that's definitely an option. You've also got Alexander Isak, 22-year-old Swedish striker, did very well in the Euros. I remember him scoring 4 goals. He had an assist, and I thought, this kid's pretty spicy. We need anything we can get our hands on, people. We need someone.
Hiya, Joel, Mark here. What about Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang's future? Can you see him leaving before the deadline? And what's the feeling around Arsenal about his future?
To be honest with you, I think when it comes to Aubameyang, unfortunately, I don't think he's not going to be leaving during this window. I can see it happening in the summer. It's just not that time to move people in an easy fashion, you know. I just think what's bad is the relationship with him and the fans. I would love that to be mended. And if he does move on, then he can move on. And when I say between him and the fans, it's we don't know what's going on. You know, he's had the personal issues. There's been the heart issues. What we need at the end of the day is a striker, someone that we can rely on. Unfortunately, Eddie Nketiah, it hasn't quite worked out for him so far in the Premier League. Lacazette is not the top striker that we want to have, unfortunately. And Aubameyang is out of favour. Like I said, we need someone, people. We need someone now.
Joel, good to see you as always. Less than a week to go, and it sounds like you're desperate for anyone to come through the door. Do you see anyone else come into the club? What other business do you want to see Arsenal do?
First of all, Rambo, I don't know why you're wearing that shirt on Sky Sports. Let's be honest. I would love to see anyone, because even in the midfield area, Rambo, as you can tell, we're weak. You know, last week, if the Tottenham game hadn't been cancelled, we would have had to play Patino and Lokonga as our, you know, DM-type midfielders. That's just too much pressure for someone. We're talking about the striking situations. We need to sort out the midfield, man. And I just worry. I worry what that means for the young players. Who are they looking up to? There's so much pressure on Emile Smith-Rowe and Saka. We shouldn't be relying on them, during the games, and I think we just need that experience, that leadership, and it just makes me want to cry and go back to the old days when we had the Vieiras and the Parlers, and the Gilberto Silvas who can carry through the youngsters. We don't have that at the moment.
Joel, great to speak to you. Thank you. Nabeed, I think it's a lovely shirt.
Thank you.
Rambo is your social media name. Yeah. We call you Nabeed, all right? Just like we call Michael, don't we? We don't say Bridgie, apart from sometimes it does slip out. Right, Fiorentina with Vlahovic, they were keen to get him go now, rather than the summer. Just explain to everyone why.
To maximise their profit. He's got 18 months remaining. Fiorentina are an ambitious side. They're bringing in players as well. Of course, you're going to get the biggest and best clubs in Europe as well looking at him in the summer for a cut price fee. We're getting the impression, obviously, we know Arsenal have been interested all January, that Vlahovic and his agent probably wanted him to go in the summer. But as it stands now, it looks like he's staying in Italy and off to Turin in Juventus.
OK. But, Nabeed, we've been saying how Mikel Arteta, well, he said it himself, that Arsenal can still attract the top players. This top player has gone elsewhere.
I do feel sorry for Arsenal. I'm not just saying that because after Joel's comment, I'm a little bit scared of what Arsenal fans might say. It's a tough one for Arsenal. Chiesa picks up a 7-month injury. Juve, as ever, want to chase down the league title, even though they're 11 points behind. So they've gone and got this man that, to be honest, I felt the whole time probably would have been tempted by Juve because they're always the top club in Serie A. Does that mean Arsenal don't have the pull? It's always difficult for a player from a sort of a lower Serie A side to come to the Premier League without Juve or Inter or AC Milan making an intervention. So I think they probably do still have the pull. In this case, it will be a huge blow for them because when the scrap happens for a striker in the summer, I don't know if Arsenal will be able to facilitate a move for one of the top players.
If you look at all the clubs that will be going for strikers over this summer and the strikers that are actually available and the world-class ones, the genuine ones that everyone wants. Everyone's talking about Erling Haaland. We've been talking about Patrick Schick as well. And then, obviously, Vlahovic right now. With Arsenal, yes, they can attract certain players because Martin Odegaard, they brought to the club, Thomas Partey, these attacking players and all of these youngsters. But for them, as I said before, bridge that gap because there is a clear gap between 3 clubs in the Premier League and then everybody else, and Arsenal want to be back in the Champions League. They don't just want to be in the group stages, they want to be competing in the Champions League as well. So they do need to be able to pull these players across. Now, if Vlahovic is going to Juventus, then that's going to be a big disappointment and a big blow for them because I'm sure with 6 days to go, they won't have identified anybody else. They'll have to wait then until the summer. They'll have to join the chasing pack of everyone that's going for the different strikers. And as you said there, Nabeed, will they be the club that all these strikers are actually looking at and are saying, oh, I'm going to go to Arsenal over Liverpool, over Chelsea, probably not for a striker, but over Manchester City, Manchester United, and maybe Tottenham as well. There's so much competition.
When Fabio Paratici joined Spurs as managing director in the summer, Vlahovic's one name he mentioned to the board as this is one guy from Italy I would love to bring over here. And then all of a sudden, all the talk in January was about Arsenal. So it's an interesting one, really. But the thing is, when Spurs and Arsenal sign big-name strikers, they don't really get a second or third chance, whereas with Chelsea and Manchester City have the funds to do so and make mistakes. Now, we know Pep Guardiola wants the striker, doesn't he? They wanted Harry Kane in the summer. It's not as if they're rushing out to get Plan B at the moment, are they?
Well, exactly, and then that's where I think for Arsenal it's going to be a difficult summer because if they don't secure this striker right now, we keep on saying it time and time again, they're going to be battling against some huge teams that can offer probably more money and the players might actually want to go for.
The fear here has got to be that if Arsenal don't sign a striker in this window, top 4 starts to slip away, and if they don't get top 4 and they compete for the top players in the summer and they don't have the financial power that, say, Chelsea, Manchester City have, Manchester United, then I smell a lot of problems there for Arsenal.
Saw it Sunday against Burnley, didn't you? The frustration. That was a bit of a must-win for Arsenal. They are out of the cups. They've got pretty much one game a week at the moment until the end of the season. But where's that firepower coming if Mikel Arteta doesn't want to bring Aubameyang back into that squad?
Well, let's talk about Aubameyang. He'd prefer a move to a European club if he leaves the club in this transfer window. There are a host of European clubs interested in him. Paris Saint-Germain, Marseille, Juventus, AC Milan and Sevilla. Arsenal are, as we know, open to offers. But Saudi Arabian club Al Nassr are the only side to have made a concrete offer for Aubameyang at this stage. Michael, it looks to me like they're running out of time, Arsenal. Do you think they'll be able to offload him?
Do I think they'll be able to offload him? Yes. Should they? Don't know. I mean, it's a difficult one because on the outside, I'm looking at Arsenal and we're talking about their lack of firepower. But whenever I listen to Mikel Arteta, I get the impression that I feel like he's had enough of him. He's sort of given up on him. He doesn't see him as an Arsenal player for the future. That's how I read it in press conferences. He talked about his health a few weeks ago and didn't really want to talk about bringing him back into the squad. He just said, look, he's being monitored. We hope he gets better soon. That doesn't strike me as someone who's ready to come back into the side. But can they afford to not have him around in the second half of the season if they don't get a striker?
Do you feel like the problem here for Arteta is he's, one, going against his philosophy if he brings Aubameyang back, but he's done that a few times already. And if he doesn't bring him back, then he's left with two forwards, one that he doesn't want anyway in Eddie Nketiah, and the other one who's really hot and cold in terms of form, and they're chasing top four. This might be a case where Arteta has to say, I have to park my morals and my standpoint on how I want to run this club, get us to the summer.
Because if there's one person that we've seen that has come back time and time again and can score goals, it is Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, and he could be the answer to what Arsenal need.
And also, I always got the impression that captain's armband was a bit heavy. If he stays and he does reconcile with Arteta, just do your thing, score goals. You're not captain anymore, that's forgotten. You need to score goals.
We've been updating you on Watford's search for a new manager. Roy Hodgson is travelling to the club to finalise a deal as head coach. That deal would be until the end of the season. He's replacing Claudio Ranieri, who was sacked yesterday. Well, these pictures just into us, who filmed Claudio arriving at the club in the last 10 minutes. He was only in charge for 14 games, less than 4 months in charge. So he's arriving at the ground there, and he went in. It's simply to collect his belongings, maybe say some goodbyes as well. He was employed at the start of October, just 7 points from 13 Premier League games. Roy Hodgson is about to replace him. Right, still to come. With 6 days remaining, is there a player your squad needs to improve them? Forgotten Men returns in a moment, so make sure you get involved using #TransferTalk. Over the last few transfer windows, we've been bringing you a feature called Forgotten Men, where we think about a player who hasn't really featured very much. You may have even forgotten that he's in your club's squad and could now get a move with 6 days to go in the transfer window. Nabeid, Michael and Kyle have all picked a player, and Nabeid, we will start with you.
Well, speaking of forgotten men, I had to Google this man to remember where he was. Kennedy signed for Chelsea in 2015, only actually played 15 times since signing for the club. He's had 5 loan spells out, and he's back at Chelsea again. He can be an emergency left wing back if needed, predominantly a winger. But I'm sure people will remember him from various stints across Europe and also across the world. But 15 times he's played for Chelsea since 2015. I don't know where he could end up next. Honestly, this man has played everywhere. He could end up anywhere.
Yeah, he had 2 loan spells at Newcastle, didn't he? In the first one, which actually was very successful for him. Michael, what about you?
Right, I mean, I was looking at Everton, and obviously a lot of Everton fans unhappy and talking about how many players they need to get out. Cenk Tosun, Mr. January. They signed him under Sam Allardyce in January, then he went to Crystal Palace on loan. Really unlucky, did his cruciate. And then the last January, he went to Besiktas. Now, I think he's out of contract at the end of the season. So does he want to just see his contract out, or does he fancy a loan until the end of the season? But if he's fit, he's still at Everton Football Club, and he's probably one of many Everton will want to look to move on.
Yeah. Arsenal need an emergency striker. Mr. January's there.
Mr. January, indeed.
If I was going to pick one, actually, I was going to go for Jean-Philippe Baman, so another Everton one in that same category. And that takes us to you, Kyle. You've thought outside the box, or thought outside the country for this one anyway.
I have indeed, yeah, Aaron Ramsey, because he's not really a forgotten man, because we do talk about him and he has been linked with plenty of clubs actually in this window. But if you go back and look at the history of him, that final game where he was in tears, that interview at Arsenal, it all looked like it was going to go up for him when he went to Juventus and went to Italy, and it hasn't been the case. There's a brilliant article that I was reading this morning, and it talks all about Aaron Ramsey and actually what went wrong for him at Juventus. And James Horncastle, he's been talking about that, and it opens up talking about Aaron Ramsey's 6th and most recent goal for Juventus. A stoppage time tap-in amid the pouring rain away to Sampdoria was almost a year ago. So you think about his career and everything that he could have gone on to do, it's not quite happened. And I think that we could see him move back to England at some point. A loan move has been talked about. Will that happen in the next 6 days? I'm not too sure, but I don't want him to be forgotten. I want him to be remembered, and I hope that he can go on to have a great future.
Well, Patrick Vieira said to me on Friday, he didn't completely rule it out, and he did say there'd be a number of clubs after him if he were to be made available, and we know he is available. So it could be a deadline day one, Carl. You could be right.
Yeah, well, Gavin's a Newcastle fan, and he wants him there. He's tweeted in to say that Newcastle should sign Lingard, Ali Ramsey and Diego Carlos. We're not asking for much. He does do a cry-laughing emoji there. He says, need to strengthen defence and midfield to claw ourselves out of this battle. So that's the Forgotten Man feature, but that tweet also brings us on to Newcastle. So get in touch, #transfer talk, Newcastle fans, because it looks like a deal to sign Diego Carlos could go down to the wire. Newcastle will have to pay at least £38 million if they want to sign him from Sevilla. Talks continued yesterday. Nabeid, Newcastle have been very keen on him all window. Why?
Well, Sevilla, the club that he plays for, have only conceded 16 goals this season, lowest in La Liga, and he plays in the middle of a back 3. Now, whether Eddie Howe will continue with the back 3, he didn't against Leeds, and they actually won that game. But tactically, I feel like in a medium term, he's the perfect sort of signing. 28 years old, 89% pass completion rate this season, which is better than any Newcastle player, not just defenders. He's physical. I would argue he's more mobile than the current crop of centre-backs, and it'll probably allow them to be a little bit more progressive in possession, but also out of possession as well. He likes to push up. And I think this might be a target where Eddie Howe's on. If we stay in the league, he is the perfect profile for me next season as well as this season. Chris Wood felt like it was a signing they made to get them over the line, to get them out of the relegation battle. It's a good sign for Newcastle fans where they're actually 38 million feels expensive, but you're getting a top centre-back here. You're not just getting someone as a stopgap. And I think that is the way Newcastle need to start going if they are planning to stay in the Premier League and be competitive next season.
25th of January, Kyle. How surprised are you that they have only completed 2 signings so far?
Well, we all thought at the very beginning of the window that Newcastle were going to be the team that went out there. We'd be talking about them all the time. And at the beginning, they were linked with 127 players, I think it was, at one point. And we thought, wow, how many of those will they actually manage to get over the line and to bring in? And we know that Newcastle fans, they've been very vocal about who they want to bring in as well. Now, fast forward to, as you say, 25th of January, they've brought in 2 players, Kieran Trippier, Chris Woods, and you look at them 2 and think, OK, great signings. They've spent a lot of money as well on both of those 2, but it is only 2 compared to some of their relegation rivals. Watford, they've brought in more players you'd look at and say than Newcastle, but what I would actually suggest then is they're not just throwing money at anyone, they have got a strategy. And maybe Eddie Howe believes that they don't have to bring in loads of players. They've got a squad that can help them stay up for this season. And then in the summer, that is when they can really start to build. That is when they can spend some money in the right areas. And it shows that their strategy actually is a positive one to help them stay in the Premier League for seasons to come.
I was told after the takeover that there'll be a number of Premier League clubs who won't be too keen on dealing with Newcastle because they know how much money they've got now. And I think that is proving to be the case. You know, and also we want to look at Eddie Howe, the kind of manager and guy he is. He doesn't want players for the wrong reasons. Yeah. He doesn't want clauses in there if they go down or anything like that. Yes, he's looking to the future. I think you make a great point there on Diego Carlos. It does look a next season one, which would be a huge, huge boost. But, yeah, I mean, look, they've got a few weeks off now. I mean, that Newcastle side could look completely different in the next game, couldn't it?
I know Newcastle fans are probably screaming, saying, just get us anyone and everyone. But doing that isn't the solution, because if you stay up next season, you've got to ship these guys off to allow you to bring more players in. And that is always a problem. And you end up almost in a cycle of a club maybe like Everton, where they've been signing and selling and trying to constantly patch up a job that really doesn't need patching up. If they stay up, they're bringing Diego Carlos. Trippier will be there next year. Chris Wood could be good backup for Callum Wilson. I think so far they're going after the right type of profiles.
Their win at Leeds on Saturday, there was a team photo in the changing room, and then people were like, come on, you've only won 1 game. That's a massive win. Who was in the middle of that photo? Kieran Trippier.
Yeah.
He's like the leader already. I see him next to Eddie Howe in pictures getting off the plane with Saudi Arabia. He's just got that kind of leadership mentality already. That's the kind of players they need.
And in that first game that he played, yes, it was a loss in the FA Cup, but he was the one who went across to the fans. He was the one that's got that experience, that's been there, and he understands how big of a project this is. He said that himself. It is a project, and as you said, Nabeed, before, they're thinking for the future. They're thinking for the long term, and if we've seen with previous clubs that have had takeovers, you said possibly Everton, we've seen them spend a lot of money and it's not working out for them. And Newcastle don't want to be that. They want to survive this season, and then next season they really want to build.
Yeah, well, Connor says centre-half need at Newcastle ASAP. That would be Carlos. He also says a striker and a midfielder before the deadline. Adam says Newcastle should sign Jesse Lingard from Manchester United. They should also sign a striker. Well, Newcastle are actually pushing hard for a deal to sign Jesse Lingard, but have so far been unable to agree a deal with Manchester United. Talks continued last week as Newcastle tried to sign the England midfielder on loan. But Manchester United, they want a permanent move. A loan would suit Newcastle and Lingard at the moment because there is still that threat of relegation. Quick update from Manchester City as well. Talks are progressing well over a deal for them to sign Julian Alvarez from River Plate. City are expected to pay a fee in the region of £17 million for the Argentina forward. It's also expected he will remain on loan at River Plate until the summer before joining City for their next pre-season. Right, it is that time of the day when we test your transfer knowledge of previous windows with our teaser. This morning it is, who was Sir Alex Ferguson's last signing as Manchester United manager? Here are your options: Juan Mata, Alex Butner, Wilfried Zaha or Shinji Kagawa. Get involved, tweet us at Sky Sports News, use the hashtag TransferTalk. The answer is straight after this break. Welcome back to Good Morning Transfers. Before the break, we asked you this question. Who was Sir Alex Ferguson's last signing as Manchester United manager? Was it Juan Mata, Alex Butner, Wilfred Zaha or Shinji Kagawa? Raj has got it right. Liam's got it right. A few people have got it right. Kyle, you've got it right, but only after I gave you... Well, basically, I persuaded you to get it right, didn't I? It's Wilfred Zaha. He joined Manchester United on a 5.5-year deal in January 2013, but he was loaned back to Palace, and then he made his permanent return to Palace 2 years later. But he was Sir Alex Ferguson's last signing as Manchester United manager. Now, we all love the transfer window here at Sky Sports News, but have you ever wondered how players feel about it? Well, Jamie Carragher and Gary Neville sat down for a chat, which you can see on the Sky Sports YouTube football channel from midday today. They discussed the times they thought they were being replaced at Liverpool and Manchester United. Here's a taster.
There was a moment when we signed a player at Manchester United. It was the only time it ever happened, when we signed David May from Blackburn, and he was seen as a right-back stroke centre-back, and I thought, oh, that's because the manager doesn't fancy me. And I felt a little bit sick in my stomach thinking I was going to be replaced. Was there ever a moment that Liverpool signed a player and you thought, I'm going to struggle here, he wants me out?
Yeah, that happened to me most seasons. No, seriously, it did. Up until I got to the age of 25, 26, did it stop happening, because I played a fullback, and I wasn't seen as a fullback. I was always seen as a stopgap fullback. But more often than not, I would still play ahead of the recognised fullback who they'd brought in. So initially, I think it was John Arisa came in after I'd played left back for a season. We won 3 trophies that season, but he brought John Arisa in. A couple of seasons later, it was Steve Finnan. I was playing right back then. Risa was left back. Steve Finnan came in. And it was funny in that Rafa Benitez then came into the club, and his first signing was a right back, and I'd finished the season right back under Gerard Houllier. But I must be honest, when Rafa Benitez's first signing was a right back and he didn't really know me as a player so much, I wouldn't say it knocked me. It was almost like, oh, I've had enough of this. You know, it was almost this constant fight of trying to prove myself better than X, Y or Z who came in. And it should be like that at a top club, but it just felt I did a little bit more. You said about sort of David May, then you obviously establish yourself as right back. I mean, who else came in at a different stage? Maybe the latter end of your career, you think, I'm done?
It was Raphael coming through. That was probably the only time that the manager signed a full-back where I thought that was a direct challenge, but it was obviously a young player. Obviously, I'd seen them coming through. That was the time where I thought, and it was actually watching them in training towards the end that made me think, I'm way off this. I'm absolutely miles away. It was either Wes Brown or John O'Shea, but I felt like we were part of a squad in the team. So when Wes took my position when I got injured in 2008 and had an unbelievable season, Wes, he was brilliant at right back that season. I actually don't think I could have played as well as Wes did that season. The way he played, he was unbelievable. By then, I was established. I was 32. I was comfortable. I didn't really feel threatened by anyone. I wanted us to be really good and continue winning. But it was Raphael towards the end.
That's available from midday today on the Sky Sports YouTube page. Right, Tottenham, no signings yet. That could be about to change with Adama Traore on the verge of joining the club. He'll cost around £20 million from Wolves. Tottenham had a bid of £15 million for the Spanish international rejected last week, with Wolves understood to value him at £25 million. However, it looks like a compromise has been made. Michael, why Traore?
I'm going to be completely honest with you. I thought this would be done by now. At the back end of last week, I was told that it should be sorted by the start of the week. However, Wolves have just tweeted, happy birthday. It's his birthday today, but obviously Wolves tweeting it, and obviously Spurs fans tweeting after, when are you joining, when are you joining? Why do Spurs want him? Antonio Conte thinks he can convert him as a right wing-back. He's not been convinced by Emerson Royal. He's not convinced by Matt Doherty. And he's just got that way up. And also he can play as a forward as well. So there's a number of options. But as I say, I thought it would have been done by now, because Spurs need to move on and get another few more signings.
Well, there could be players leaving, though. You've been looking at players that could be available to leave Tottenham.
Look, bit of fun, this, because it's not guaranteed. This is uncertain futures 11 on my day off yesterday. Galini's alone.
No days off.
Galini's alone. Tanganga, obviously wanted by AC Milan. Cameron Carter-Vickers having a very good loan spell at Celtic. Will they make that permanent? Joe Rodon could be going out on loan this window. Matt Doherty potentially going out as well. He played well last week, but there's still talk that he might leave. Giovanni Lo Celso wasn't in the squad against Chelsea on Sunday. Talk of him going back to Spain. Tanguy Ndombele, talks ongoing with PSG. Dele, not in the squad. Again, could be going out on loan. Jack Clark has a plenty of loan deals. He could be going out on loan to an EFL side next week. Brian Hill, He's wanted by a number of sides in Spain, so he could be going out on loan. And Steven Bergwijn, despite those brilliant 2 late goals at Leicester, is still wanted by Ajax.
Woof. Tottenham fans, what do you think of that hashtag transfer talk? Kyle, what do you think of it?
Well, looking at that 11 just now, I mean, there are a few players that do stand out. I've been talking about Dele for years and years, as well as everybody else has, but it worries me that for Tottenham, if they were to lose 3 or 4 of those players, have they got the strength in depth to afford to lose those players? No, they do not. Not the current situation they're in, not for where they aspire to be as well. And will Antonio Conte, will he be backed? Will he be given the funds necessary to replace these players? Because if they let them go, well, who do they replace them with if they want to be back into Champions League football and competing on that stage?
The big concern here is you've just named 11 players easily, which means there's 11 players at least that don't fit what Conte wants. The one that stands out to me is Bryan Hill. I feel like he hasn't had a chance yet, and I've seen him in Spain, and he's a very bright talent. Whether he fits what Conte wants to do, whether he's got that work rate and the output, and where he actually plays, obviously he's predominantly a winger, and he's not going to play wing back. And with Adama coming in, I just think the problem you've got is you've got a lot of players that don't play in Conte's system. They might be good footballers, like Bergwijn comes on against Leicester, but can they fit into what Conte wants?
He was signed by the current director.
He was a swap with Eric Lamela, Seville.
They'll want that to work, won't they?
Yeah, but my point with Bryan Hill, although he's wanted by teams in Spain, I don't see the point of going back to La Liga. If we talk about him being a little bit slight, knocked off the ball, go to a lower Premier League side. That's what I would do. But yeah, it's interesting. I think there'll be a lot of outgoings to Spurs over the next few days. Right, well, Good Morning Transfers returns from 9 o'clock tomorrow. Only a few left before deadline day, which is, of course, next Monday. The 4 of us are back in a couple of hours' time at midday. That is Transfer Talk. And don't forget, full round of the day's transfer stories, 5 o'clock. And tonight, 6:30, by the way, with Dharmesh and Carve. Coming up on Sky Sports News, we'll have the latest on Roy Hodgson's appointment as Watford head coach, because that is imminent.